Quarterback rumor mill has no offseason, and today, no exception. For Mark Dominic, Jim Trotter, Jarrett Bell, I'm Jason Fitz. This is NFL Insiders. Let's start by getting you caught up on news and notes around the league. Take a look at the timeline. ESPN is reporting Tyrod Taylor medically cleared after groin surgery. Taylor, who had surgery on January 5th, was medically cleared and passed a physical, a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter. The timing here is important because Taylor has a contract clause that guarantees his $27.5 million salary in 2017 if the Bills release him due to a professional injury suffered while performing his services under this contract. So let's dive right into what this means. We'll bring on ESPN Bills reporter Mike Rodak. Mike, thanks for taking the time to join us. Let's get straight to it. What does all of this mean for the future of Tyrod Taylor and for the Bills?
Well, this was an expected development, but it paves the way for the Bills to release Tyrod Taylor without having to worry about that injury guarantee, without having to pay him $27 million, essentially not to play for them. Of course, the Bills have not yet decided whether they're going to release Tyrod Taylor. They have until March 11th to do that. It's also possible that Tyrod Taylor could always try to file a grievance and say that he was injured if they do release him. But the Bills obviously putting out word today that he has been medically cleared, which should allow him to leave the team without issue if they do in fact decide to release him.
ESPN Bills reporter Mike Rodak. Mike, thanks for taking the time to come on the show. We appreciate it, my friend. Tyrod Taylor is not the only quarterback in the news. ESPN's Jeff Darlington reported last night that the Bears have begun actively shopping quarterback Jay Cutler. To break down what this means for Cutler in Chicago, we'll go straight to the source. Jeff, thanks for joining us. We'll get right to it. Will the Bears be successful in trading Cutler?
All right, well, in simplest terms, based on the conversations I've had with league sources, I would call it unlikely that they're able to pull off a trade, but this does require some context. So we got three parties involved here. We got the Bears, who are actively shopping and would like to unload him, but then we've got the other potential suitors. If we can find a landing spot, a team that would be interested, Cutler still does have some leverage. Now, according to my sources, Cutler does not have a no-trade clause in his contract, so the Bears could simply just unload him. But there's one key factor we have to remember. There's no more guaranteed money in Cutler's contract remaining. So if, for instance, the Bears found a team like the Browns, but it's a non-competitive team that Cutler wasn't really interested to going to, Cutler could simply say, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to sit if you trade me, which would decentivize the Browns to make the trade. And Cutler would not owe any money because he has no guaranteed money left in his contract. So he does maintain leverage. Unless it's a competitive team, say like Houston or something like that, I think it is very unlikely that a trade happens. I think more likely would be the Bears' outright release of Cutler, which would make him a free man and would really throw some wrinkles into this quarterback carousel.
ESPN's Jeff Darlington, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it, Jeff. Cutler, this is a rarity. Cutler has been involved in two blockbuster trades in his career. In 2006, the Broncos moved up in the first round of the draft to get Cutler, giving up their first and third round picks. And in 2009, the Bears traded a package including 2 first-round picks and Kyle Orton for Cutler. So, with the news on Jay Cutler and Tyrod Taylor, it brings us to our quarterback trade market touchscreen. Our resident GM, Mark Dominic, he's going to break down which 5 quarterbacks are most likely to be traded.
Yeah, it's a trick, right? I mean, we had a hard time coming up with 7 names. Let's just be honest about it. But that's where the market is right now in terms of who's got the best chance to be traded. So when we looked at this list, you know, number 5 was a tough one for me, but I'm looking here at Kirk Cousins. Does he have a chance to be traded? Theoretically, I guess yes. But the reality is it's going to be tough, I think, for him to move on.
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, the only way it would happen is if they franchise him and then they can seek to trade him after that, because it doesn't look like they're going to get a long-term deal done before the franchise deadline by which you've got to designate him. So the only way to protect themselves is to franchise them, and then if they want to move them, try and move them.
And if we were to look at a team where we would say who would really maybe even consider Kirk Cousins, I would look at San Francisco and the new coach Kyle Shanahan if it all came to that point where there was such a discussion.
But I see such a little chance, right, of this guy getting actually moved because it sure seems like he's destined for another year in Washington.
Okay, so give us who's number 4 on your list, Mark.
All right, so we're going to go here with Jay Cutler. Now, we know we just talked about Jay Cutler, and a couple of things that Jeff Darlington just said, which I think are critical, is the fact that he is going to make $15 million this year if he's on your roster the whole season. None of that's guaranteed. And, yeah, could somebody pick up Jay Cutler? It's just a matter of a fit and finding the right team.
Yeah, and you look at a situation like this, and Jim, you talked about it off air, where Bears GM Ryan Pace has done a couple deals where he's gotten something in return. It's almost like we've seen this situation over the past few days with Brandon Albert and Julius Thomas. Guys got traded for late-round picks because the word was out that they were going to be out. I think that's the same type of scenario that could happen here with Jay Cutler.
But if you're looking for a bridge quarterback, you're going to get a young quarterback. You need a bridge quarterback. $15 million for Jay Cutler is not much, knowing that you're looking for that next guy. The other thing, when you talk to people in the Bears organization, even back in Denver, they never said that Jay Cutler is a bad guy. What I've heard is that he works very hard. You know, he puts in the time and he's good with his teammates. He just has bad body language when we see it from the outside.
Yeah, when you look at Jay Cutler, the last thing I would add to that is just when you see him as a football player and decide where he's going to go, the hard part is finding that starting role. And that's really going to be a tricky thing to see how this plays out for Jay.
My favorite piece of Cutler information, he's the only player on the Bears roster remaining from the 2010 championship game.
But very smart for that organization to put out that they're actively trading him. Very smart move.
So who do you have at 3, Mark?
I'm going to go right here with Tyrod Taylor. You know, the Buffalo Bills, we just talked to Mike Rodak, the local reporter there at ESPN, about Tyrod Taylor. And the reason why is, you know, this guy's got some good tape out there, and it's been a very interesting ending last season to his career. So I think he has a chance, if Buffalo doesn't keep him, to be a guy that actually could be traded on the open market.
You know, one thing that's interesting is when you talk about Tyrod Taylor and what happened last year with him getting the deal that has this big, you know, signing bonus situation for them to consider, is that the Bills have to realize now that his value is pretty good when you talk about a quarterback market that does not have a lot of options out there. If they don't hang on to Tyrod Taylor, there are places where he can go, and if they want to try to make a deal to that end, well, that's part of the equation.
I'm going to be the contrarian and say I think he stays from this standpoint. I think they understand now that if they move or if they release him, there are teams out there right now, at least 3, that definitely have interest in him. So if you're Buffalo, you have to sit back and say, what do those teams see that we don't see? The other thing, 27.5 guaranteed is not much when you look at how the salary cap is increasing each year. And by the time that contract is done, you know, when you average it out, he's going to be a bargain going forward for a franchise.
His value's gone up.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind, Rick Dennison was the offensive coordinator at Baltimore when Tyrod Taylor was a backup. He's now the offensive coordinator at Buffalo, so he knows him just as well as anybody does.
Well, and Jim, you mentioned other teams that are interested. They certainly don't want him to end up somewhere like the Jets. Let's just say it. Look, we can't give the whole list away, right? We got to keep everybody in suspense a little bit. So we'll hold the top 2 for the other side. Mark's going to ruffle some feathers with his top pick. We'll do that after the break. The quarterback roulette wheels keep spinning. We're getting you guys caught up on the guys most likely to be traded this offseason. So we're down to number 2 and number 1. Mark, you're the resident GM here. So who do you have at number 2?
So number 2 of most likely to be traded, which is always tricky because there's a lot of rumors around him and what's going on with the Dallas organization. But certainly the most likely to change teams, I will go with Tony Romo. And he certainly is a guy that we're going to see a new uniform on, it looks like in 2017. Whether they could trade him or not, doesn't seem like they may have to.
No, I don't think they will trade him. I think as Ed Werder reported a week ago or so, he will be released. That makes the most sense. Jerry Jones will do right by Tony Romo because of their friendship, because of what he's meant to the organization. So I would look for him to be released, not traded.
And sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, one thing to consider obviously is the big salary with Tony Romo that would come with a trade. And then you start talking about the price and then even the risk. If you're a team trying to trade for Tony Romo, how much would you really be willing to give up? And I guess that kind of leads to our next guy.
And the only thing I would sit there and say about Tony Romo, to your point though, is if you're a team that's kind of in between that don't think you can actually negotiate and get Tony Romo, I would be calling Dallas today and say, I'll give you that 5th or 6th rounder because I don't want to get in a bidding war or I don't want to lose out because I think he may not be my first choice. And would try that at
right,
least.
But what if Tony says, I don't want to play for that team?
That's going to really hurt my feelings.
You know, life's tough. It ain't fair.
So is the NFL, baby. Not for long.
Jerry will take care of Tony.
You're going to hurt a lot of feelings here. What's your number 1 pick on this board?
Well, the most likely to be traded up here is Jimmy Garoppolo because of you are selling at the highest point of right now his NFL career. He's played really well in the 2 games. He's got a lot of suitors for his skills. So most likely of this group, yeah, I have to rank him number one.
Well, I would say this. If you're the New England Patriots, look at the blueprint. They drafted Ryan Mallett in the 3rd round. They let him get to the final year of his rookie deal, and what did they do? They traded him. You drafted Jimmy in the 2nd round. You let him get to the final year of his contract. Now, what are you going to do? If you keep him around and he walks next year, so what? You get a compensatory 3rd-round pick. If you move him now, you potentially could get a 1, you could get multiple 2s, whatever it is. But his value is going to be greatest now for the Patriots, and that's why I say they trade him this year.
Yeah, Bill Belichick has to love all of this buzz and speculation about Jimmy Garoppolo because it's just driving that price up. But say you're on the other side and you're a team looking to get Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, you said it, Mark, 2 games. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who, hey, granted, he's been groomed in the Patriots system, and he's had a good opportunity and a chance to show what he can do when he gets in there. But, I don't know if I'm very, very comfortable for, really giving a big price for a guy who only has so much tape. But then again, it's also reflective of the desperate times on this quarterback market.
I do have to ask you guys. I mean, in a perfect world, we live in a bubble where everybody's evaluated just for who they are. But there has to be some level where you look at the Patriots and the success or lack thereof of people when they leave New England. Does that measure into how you evaluate Garoppolo in this situation?
It doesn't for me. I have complete confidence in Jimmy Garoppolo being a very good to an exceptional NFL starter in the National Football League, which is why I also feel like when we talk about what it would take, if I put myself in Bill Belichick's shoes, you better be coming with a 1. I've got probably 5 teams that are honestly calling at least right now that should be calling or will call or I'll meet with at the Combine. So I think the asking price starts not only just to add a 1, I think it's more than that, people, because you go back and look at Jay Cutler, he was 2 1s, a 2 and a quarterback. But I know that was a long time ago.
And he had more of a track record.
Sure he did,
though it was
but there was hiccups with him even coming out of college and people were like, well, let's see. But when I look at Jimmy Garoppolo, the only thing I would sit there and say is it's not so much about the compensatory pick, because I agree with you 100%, Jim. That's just like the 100th pick in the draft, which is still valuable. It's more about insurance for 2017, making sure if something happens to Tom Brady that I've got the quarterback still here, and it could be my transition to another 15 years of Patriot dynasty.
Yeah, the one thing you think about with the Patriots, though, too, you talk about sitting there, Tom Brady looks like the Tom Brady we've known for a long time. And obviously that plays in the Patriots' favor right now because they really don't have to do anything, which is another part of the equation for them. But
if we're talking teams, I think you have to look at Cleveland, as you said earlier. I don't think with the first pick or even San Francisco's second. I think the number 12 with Cleveland, you would think about giving up. If you could get a dominant defensive player at number 1 and then get a quarterback at 12, you consider that. And the other thing to think about, if you say Jimmy Garoppolo, your team like Cleveland need a quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo versus anybody in the draft, even, Deshaun Watson. And, Jimmy Garoppolo at least has some time in the NFL, so that puts him above all of the college quarterbacks.
And that's where it gets interesting. How high could the pick be or what the multiple picks will be if Bill Belichick even decides to trade away a commodity like this?
The one thing we know is that the Cowboys and Romo's fans are massively active on Twitter. So you, my friend, are going to get blown up. I wish you luck for putting Garoppolo above Twitter. It's above Romo on Twitter.
Well, there's one reason. I might get 15 years out of this guy. I might get 3 out of this. But I still, if I'm a club, I'm calling Tony Romo's agent right now.
Well, there's one guy, though, we know for sure is moving, and that's Tony.
That's right.
Welcome back to NFL Insiders. The Scouting Combine starts next week at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, where the draft's top prospects will be tested in drills like the 40, bench press, vertical jump, and broad jump. Here's Bill Polian and Darren Woodson on what to watch for in the 40-yard dash.
This is the most important drill in the Combine for all the little people. The DBs, the wide receivers, the running backs, the linebackers, because this is the entry point to the NFL. And for defensive backs like Woody, we're looking at 4.5 or below in the 40-yard dash. And, of course, you've been practicing for quite a while. Tell us what you've been doing.
I've been practicing since the end of the college football season. When the college football season ended, I'm eligible to go to the Combine. First thing I'm going to do is work on my speed because I'm going to be measured by how fast I run this 40-yard dash.
And you've been working on your stance, haven't you?
I've been working on my stance, and I'm trying to cheat, of course. I'm trying to get as close to that line as I possibly can.
All right, I'm going to make sure you don't. Here we go. I'm watching his back foot now, making sure he doesn't roll. Go! 4.49.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I'll live with that as a safety. I'll live with that time.
And you're never going to run it again, right?
This is it. This will be the last time I run the 40-yard dash. Because once I get drafted, I'm done with it. The only time I'll be running the 40 is I'm chasing someone. That's it.
Good job.
Great job, guys. Speed was a big factor in building the Falcons' young Super Bowl 51 defense. The average 40 time of their 11 starters was a 4.61, better than the combine 40 times of guys like Joe Hayden and Jarvis Landry. Granted, Dwight Freeney isn't running a sub 4.5 anymore. Mark, who are you most interested to see run at the combine?
Yeah, I've got two guys that I'm very excited to see run next week, really because I think it will change their draft stock depending on how they run. Number one is right here, Mr. Clemson, Mr. Mike Williams. You know, he catches the ball phenomenally. He tracks it, got powerful hands, is a good route runner. It's just going to be interesting to see what's his top-end speed look like. But Mike Williams is a guy that has a chance to move easy in the top 10, maybe even higher, if he just gets in that 4.5 to 4.4, and he's going top 10 easy. But it's a fantastic football player. Curious on his. Another guy that I'm really kind of interested is David Njoku. Now, he's the tight end out of the University of Miami who, if you watch his tape, you are blown away by the athleticism that he has. And right now he's kind of hovering as an early second, late first rounder. I think this guy could go to the combine and light up the 40-yard dash and light up all the drills. I think this guy's got a chance to be one of your big movers if he has a good week at the combine. So David Njoku is one that I think a lot of people need to pay attention to because he could be a huge riser after those workouts are done.
You know, look, I understand why fans and people get excited about the 40, but let me be the contrarian here for a minute. There have been a lot of players who ran fast and couldn't play football at the NFL level. There also have been guys who didn't run well and were dominant players. Jerry Rice, as we see on the screen, Le'Veon Bell, Anquan Bolden. You can keep going down the list of guys who didn't necessarily run well but turned out to be phenomenal NFL players.
And think about it. Emmitt Smith, NFL's all-time leading rusher. What did he run in the 40?
It was like a 4.53 or 4.54. It wasn't as fast as people want to believe.
Yeah, there's 40-yard dash speed and there's football speed. And in fact, you talk about Jerry Rice. Did anybody ever catch him from behind?
No. Here's the thing. Go to the tape. If you're in doubt, go to the tape.
I'm still jealous I don't get to run. I just want to run. It's time now for Celebrity Ask the Insiders. This is going to be good. We'll start up with a question from Titans left tackle Taylor Lewan.
Hey, Insiders. This is Taylor Lewan. Fitzy, thanks for having me on, buddy. And my question is, why do we have the PAT at the 15-yard line? Doesn't make any sense to me.
You know what? The NFL changed that rule with the extra points to make the extra point a more competitive play. And I think they've largely accomplished what they wanted to. It's no longer a gimme. There's some suspense to it. So I actually like it. Guys who are in the trenches, maybe not so much so, but hey, you know, you got to earn those points.
I love it. Back in week 11, I believe it was, we had 12 missed extra points, which changes the flow of the game, can make it more competitive, put games in doubt. So from my standpoint, I think this was a positive change by the league.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'd quickly say is that you saw it even all the way to the Super Bowl. When they missed the extra point, New England had to go for two at the end to actually tie the game.
Yes, sir.
Big deal.
So next up, we'll go to Bears quarterback Brian Hoyer.
What's up, Insiders? This is Brian Hoyer. Just wanted to ask Jason what made him more nervous. The first time he played the fiddle in front of a sold-out crowd or hosting his first week on NFL Insiders?
You know what? First of all, it's awesome that he's asking me. He doesn't even want to talk to you guys. Definitely this. See, here's the thing. If I play in front of a sold-out crowd, Booger McFarland doesn't make fun of my suits. When I host this, Booger McFarland makes fun of my suits. So, I want to be – the stage is way easier than hanging out with you guys.
Booger makes fun of all of our suits. Don't worry about that.
Help me. Somebody's got to help me. I don't know what I'm doing.